week, I did not forget to start the audio recording. Welcome to Beerfield Fantasy Football. I am your host at Hot BFF in St. Louis, Missouri. As always, joined by the wonderful power of the internet, by my lovely, more bearded than normal co-host at the BFF, Dan.
Yeah, it's been a little bit. I've been really lazy, and I've woken up liking the way that my beard looks. So I'm just like, fuck it.
It does look majestic. You should grow that out Fitzpatrick style.
I should, and then find a way to borrow Deshaun Jackson's clothes in a non-creepy way.
You should. Actually, if we could definitely recreate that press conference Beerfield style, that would probably get us more than our, 40 YouTube watches.
Yes, definitely.
Speaking of YouTube, Beerfield Fantasy Football, like, subscribe, and give us more than 40 watches there. Twitter, Instagram, untapped at BeerfieldFF. I have a note in here for YouTube-only shows. I wasn't going to pip that. So just know, YouTube-only shows are coming. Not this week. We're going to wait for the first season, preseason to get through. But next week, we will begin doing YouTube-only shows. And if you want preseason recap, if you want us to talk about who we liked in the preseason games, at least for week one, if you want us to discuss how our rankings are changing and you'd like to see that, that is going to be YouTube only. So be sure to tune into that. We'll let you know next week for sure when that's happening. And then we have merch. We have a Patreon. You can follow us also on Twitter, Instagram, untapped at BeerfieldFF. We also have a listener league and qualify for that IDP league for the live drawing, slow draft format, one entry for a screenshot of you subscribed on YouTube, 2 entries for merch, 2 entries for an FF Expo ticket purchase. And more excitingly speaking, not like a robot, you can buy a ticket to the Midwest FF Expo and come hang out with us August 18th. Did I get the date right that time? 17th.
Yes, August 18th.
18th. Beautiful. In Canton, Ohio. We'll also be there the 17th. We're going to be hanging out, drinking some beer, going to the Hall of Fame, around town on Saturday. Then we'll be at the conference on Sunday. We've now got the first stage slot. We had to trade with somebody so that they could actually keep their time slot. So we will be kicking off the conference at 12 o'clock noon on the live podcast stage. Then I believe we're in some panel stuff the rest of the day. So come by, hang out, 15% off merch if you show up. Promo code beer to save yourself $5 on the already cheap ticket. Take a cheap family vacation. Bring the kids.
Something even just as equally amazing is a listener question.
Oh, yes. Good.
A Nash, what's up? I don't think we've seen you before, so thank you for tuning in. Hopefully don't leave. What are y'all? His question is, what do we think about 0 RB in the first 3 or 4 rounds?
So it's proven viable if you can hit on guys. It is more of a gamble, and I don't think that this is a particularly good year for it, given the fact that there is a ton of wide receiver depth. I'm almost more in a 0 wide receiver in the first 4 rounds type of mindset, because there are guys, I think, all the way down through probably 30 that could potentially be wide receiver ones. So I don't think you need to sell out on the running back position in order to get good wide receiver depth this season. Now, again, I do think it's a viable strategy, especially if you're smart with it and get some guys late you can hit on. I just don't think it's entirely necessary this season.
Yeah, I mean, and just like most seasons, if you don't take a running back by that 4th round, you're already praying for things to look better. I mean, you're looking at guys like Chris Carson, Sony Michel. I think he's a bit higher now.
Lamar Miller, I think, is like round 6.
But you're looking at
Sanders, Jacobs, guys like that.
Yeah, like you're looking at rookies and Montgomery and Jacobs. I think Montgomery's starting to slip a bit, so that's good. They're not getting guaranteed starters or getting guaranteed guys that are going to see that type of volume to propel them to the RB2 or RB1 status.
Which, again, we have seen in the past where that hits. I mean, who's to say that you don't get Ronald Jones late and he doesn't end up starting for Tampa Bay and tearing it up? It's more of a gamble. Traditionally that's a style you'd use more as a gamble in order to stack your wide receiver depth. I don't think you have to do it this year to stack your wide receiver depth. Which, keep listening because we're going to talk about that a lot.
Oh, yeah.
All right. Dan, any other thoughts on that?
He just followed up with his responses, but not elite wide receivers, running backs get hurt way too often, and after the top 4, there's risk. My response to that is or it's going to be, at least in type form, is you can't predict injuries. I mean, with running backs, it always seems there's a 50-50 chance that they bust anyways. Just given with injuries, given how we don't know how the offenses are actually going to gel, we can only predict. With wide receivers, there tends to be a little bit more safety to them, a little more in terms of boom bust for a lot of them. But running back by committees, they tend to happen more than you think. So
there's less contact too at the wide receiver position, which does make them a little bit less susceptible to injury. Running backs get banged up though, and I think play through it a bit more. Wide receivers also, you've seen the foot injuries and the hamstring injuries and things over the last couple of years with them that come up more nagging, will cause them to miss games sporadically, just disappear for games at a point in time and re-injure things. So I mean, I don't even necessarily buy into the running back or the argument that running backs are more injury susceptible than wide receivers at this point, just because it can strike pretty much anywhere at any point in time.
Exactly. But a great question though.
Yeah, no, I love draft strategy questions.
So again, thank you, Nash.
Yep. All right, let's move on to the beer preview. Preview, not a review. Stop myself.
No, you pulled the neck.
What's fueling Beerfield?
All right, Dan, what do you got?
I am drinking Funkin' Groovin'. It's from this Still Brewery out in Normal, Illinois. It is a tart New England style IPA with grapefruit. This is part of their Deadhead series, which is their New England style series. This clocks in at 7.2%. Says 52 IBUs. I don't believe it because it's not ultra bitter. But more on how I feel about this beer later.
All right, and I am drinking Mountain Jam Volume 4 from Roadhouse Brewing in Jackson Hole, Wyoming. It's a hazy IPA with strawberry and kiwi added to it, and there's a poem on the side of the can that I would like to take the time to read to you now. It dreams were thunder and lightning were desire. This liquid shapeshifter would light up the night sky like candescent vitality. It is blues, it is rock, it is folk, and it is country. Its slinky lines eclipse the genres and the stereotypes. It's a sinuous movement of both dexterity and grace, and it will draw you in like the moon pulls the tide. A lot to live up to. Dan is golf clapping, if you're not watching on YouTube.
The snaps. Yes.
Wait, I forgot you can't hear drops. I just did a cold transfer to news. Sorry.
That's good.
I did a cold transfer to news and Dan can't hear drops. So, whoops. Anyway, lumping the one game preseason game we are going to recap here. The Hall of Fame game did happen. That's about all I have to say. Drew Lock reportedly looked like a deer in the headlights, completing 7-11 passes for 34 yards. John Elway said he was shown some coverage he wasn't expecting. That just pretty much says that Drew Lock still needs some seasoning, which we kind of knew. Something called Khalfani Muhammad led the team with 74 scrimmage yards for the Broncos, and of note, yeah, right. And of note, Noah Fant and Troy Fumagalli both played in this game, so that just would suggest to me that Jake Butt and Jeff Hireman are ahead of them on the depth chart at the moment.
I would expect Noah Fant to play. I saw that he played a lot more than people expected, so I think that's even more of the note to it. It's still very wide open.
It's usually in the Hall of Fame game, you don't normally see people that are playing, at least at this point, to be a huge part of the offense used. So,
yeah.
Meanwhile, in Atlanta, Kurt Binkert got the majority of the quarterback work, 19 for 34, 185, and a touchdown. Brian Hill rushed 11 times for 57 yards, and this part's notable. Brian Hill, Ito Smith, and Quadri Olison all played, kind of battling for that number 2 spot behind Devonta Freeman. Ito Smith and Quadri Olison were both kind of unimpressive. I think Smith had 6 yards on 3 carries, and Olison was even worse. So Brian Hill looking like the best of the bunch there.
Yeah, it sounds like Ito Smith played himself out of the RB2 spot at the moment, and just with how well Brian Hill played and the praise he got, it's a wide open committee for behind the running back that tends to get banged up over the last couple of years.
Yep, they're talking about using rotation, so we'll see how that goes.
Yep.
On to roster news. Not a whole lot more to take away from the Hall of Fame game. It'll be the same thing for the most of preseason, but something really notable happens. Be sure to check in on YouTube because we'll talk about it.
Oh yeah.
Patriots signed quarterback Tom Brady to a 2-year extension worth $70 million. It's expected that the two teams will just meet every year and restructure this deal, or at least next year to restructure the deal and kind of take it year by year.
I feel like Tom Brady is going to turn into a robot at some point because
he already is.
It's as much as I hate on him, as much as I hate New England. I mean, it's a spectacle. It's very impressive for what we're seeing. And,
there will be parties in the streets the day that ends.
Twitter will be a blast, and everywhere besides Boston will be cheering while Boston cries it's their eyes out as their franchise goes into mediocrity after that.
Yeah, well, a Boston franchise deserves mediocrity. All of them.
Right.
The Texans have waived running back Deonta Foreman. This comes as a surprise to most. It's not because of the Achilles, but I guess because of work ethic is what I was seeing thrown around on Twitter. Yes. But he's gone, which gives Demare Crockett kind of the inside shot at this. And Crockett was a guy that didn't overly impress me. So
I think it's more or less he's 5'11", 220. His player profiler comparable is Isaiah Crowell, who, as very famously know, we were far too high on in 2017, flamed out. But it's the upside, just given what his metric profile showed us.
Well, and this goes back to what I said too about Lamar Miller. I mean, if you feel comfortable cutting Foreman, you're obviously comfortable with something, and there's an expectation they're going to bring somebody else in. But even if they don't, this just goes back to you don't bench the guy that averaged 4.5 yards a carry behind a bad offensive line. Yeah, the touchdown numbers weren't there. Touchdowns are fluky. And he wasn't that involved in the passing game. That's more of a game planning thing than anything. It's not because he can't. We've seen him do it in the past.
Yeah.
But it just shows the job that Lamar Miller was asked to do. The Texans feel like he did it. Otherwise, there's no reason to waive Deonta Foreman at this point in camp. You just keep depth around. Even if you're going to bring somebody in, you keep depth around. It's not like Foreman had a massive contract or anything.
Exactly. Nash pointed out the potential trade for Melvin Gordon. I don't see it happening money-wise.
But
I mean, they could. But I just don't see them paying for, having to pay for Melvin Gordon when they still need to pay for Watson, and that's likely going to start next year.
Yep. The other thing to keep in mind, too, is with running backs, as you mentioned, it plays into your zero RB strategy. Teams kind of value them the same way. Jerry Jones actually said this week that, towards Zeke, you don't need a rushing champion to win. We didn't see any takers for or any trades worked out for Le'Veon Bell while he was sitting out for a year. Of course, he wouldn't sign his tender, but I mean, you get it. It's just you're not going to get, from the Chargers standpoint, I'd be surprised if they get an offer that makes them willing to trade Melvin Gordon, given the fact that most teams feel like you got a good O-line, you can plug a running back in.
Yeah.
But hey, if it happens, then I'll be excited about it. And it is a team that more often than not, people think, hey, they need to upgrade or do something at running back. So if it happens, cool. Ravens signed quarterback Joe Callahan. It's more of a camp body in the absence of RG3. Saints have released wide receiver Cam Meredith. He was signed by the Patriots and then immediately placed on the active PUP list with his knee injury. So another slot receiver for the Patriots. They need all the people that can run over the middle of the field that they can get.
Apparently.
The Cowboys have signed running back Alfred Morris, Zeke insurance.
Yeah, I mean, he knows the offense. He's been successful in this offense. So it sounds like Zeke is nowhere near ready to come back. So,
well, and Rod Smith at the left, Weber's, I don't know what he is. So banged up. Yeah.
He's something.
Yeah. So that makes sense. The Saints signed and then released Rob Kelly within the course of like a day. Raiders waived tight end Eric Swope. Ravens waived wide receiver Jordan Lasley. He was claimed by the Raiders. They try to, I don't even know why, honestly. Looks like Hunter Renfro's, more on that later. Jaguars signed running back Devontae Mays. Broncos signed running back Theo Riddick. Hard to think that Theo Riddick has much value in Denver.
It's interesting because he's still a successful pass catching running back, playing with a quarterback that with Joe Flacco likes to use his running backs in the passing game. We need to know or see, I guess, how this is all going to play out. It's going to knock.
It's just tough for me to see because you got two other backs
Yeah.
that we know the Broncos like that are both adequate pass catchers.
To me, this could scream RBBC. This could really hurt Philip Lindsay's value. I think Rice Freeman is a better between the tackles banner. He's got the size for it. Unlike Lindsay, who's 90 pounds. Riddick's already been a proven pass catcher. I think Lindsay could fill that role. This could also mean that they're not as comfortable with Devon Booker behind him, or they're not as comfortable with Lindsay as their full-time pass catcher just yet.
Or they just took a flyer on somebody they thought had value. I don't know. Riddick is kind of a quintessential. If Lindsay gets hurt again, he could plug that role. But
true.
Yeah. So who knows? I think it's probably a camp body situation. See what they've got. If he turns into something, you keep him, and you kept Booker.
True.
49ers released tight end Niles Paul. Raiders signed running back Mac Brown. Saints signed running back Jaquiz Rogers to replace Rob Kelly. And the Jaguars have signed running back Rock Thomas. And Rob Kelly was actually a Buck Allen replacement because Buck Allen went to IR. So there's the saga of that roster spot. You've had Buck Allen, Rob Kelly, and Jaquiz Rogers there.
At some point in time, all three running backs were fantasy viable for
they were
some part of the season.
Just flyers. Rock Thomas in Jacksonville, by the way, is something I like. Not because of the suspension, but because I liked Rock Thomas last preseason and kind of what he brought. Even I was the one out of the three of us that was on Rock Thomas and not Mike Boone. And I'm not exactly confident in Alfred Blue and why is the name escaping me? Who's the other backup in Jacksonville?
The rookie?
No, no, he doesn't count for anything. As much as people want him to. The former Seahawks back. Why is this name eluding me?
Oh, CJ Procise?
No.
Procise?
No, Procise is still there. The big one.
Oh, man. I'm just going to look. It's Jacksonville backup running backs for net. Things I don't particularly care too much. It's
going to bother me.
Thomas Rawls.
That's it.
But they got Benji Cunningham, though.
They do have Benji Cunningham. I actually projected Benji Cunningham. But anyway, Alfred Blue, Thomas Rawls don't instill a lot of confidence in me, so we'll see what Rock Thomas can do.
No, yeah.
In injury news, Damian Williams still not practicing with a hamstring injury.
Drink. Oh yeah,
Andrew Luck still not practicing with a calf injury. Luck not ready to go. No real update on Williams' status. AJ Brown is dealing with a suspected hamstring injury and not practicing.
Drink.
John Ross is suspected to miss about 2 weeks with a hamstring injury.
Yep.
Okay, break from that. AJ Green underwent surgery on his injured ankle. Still expected to be 6 to 8 weeks. The Bengals have said he will miss regular season games. So they hope he's back in the first half of the season, and I think that's a safe bet that he's back in the first half of the season. My guess is it's between 2 and 4 games.
Yeah, I think it came out last week that was 1 to 3. I would not be surprised if he misses more. It's not good.
No.
Not good for all the AJ Green shares that I have.
Well, I don't have any, thankfully, but yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler Boyd for those first couple weeks, even though he may not have produced that much better without AJ Green, I mean, he's it. Yeah, John Ross dealing with a hamstring issue and no hype around anybody else. So you're betting on, at least until preseason games start, you're pretty much betting on Tyler Boyd. Buck Allen's been placed on injured reserve, ending his season with the Saints. As I mentioned earlier, per Adam Schefter, Derrick Henry's injury is a strained calf. He's going to be sidelined for at least 2 weeks while he's in the walking boot, so he shouldn't miss time. The Ravens have activated Marquise Brown from the active pup list, so we'll get to see him in due time. Dolphins tight end Dwayne Allen has been cleared from the active pup list, so we'll get to see him and Gesicki battle it out. Yay. All right, and we're back. Jamal Williams is still missing time in Green Bay with a hamstring injury. Drink.
Oh, Dexter Williams.
Texans have activated tight end Kahale Warring from the active NFI list, so we'll get to see him compete with Jordan Thomas there.
Awesome.
Paris Campbell's missed the last 3 days of practice with a hamstring injury. Sterling Shepard's been cleared to participate in live drills. He's wearing a no-contact jersey and catching passes one-handed, looking increasingly more like he's going to be ready to go for week 1.
Which is good. I think that was the expected timetable for him.
Yep, I think so too. And we know Golden Tate's probably going to miss 4 games. You know that Corey Coleman's hurt, so Sterling Shepard's definitely viable this first few weeks. More on that as we get into previews because I don't know their schedule off the top of my head. Bills tight end Tyler Kroft has shed his walking boot. He's still probably 1 to 2 weeks away from seeing the field, but we'll get to see him and Dawson Knox compete. It is expected that Tyler Kroft is going to get the starting gig, though, despite good reports out of Dawson Knox.
Never mind.
Huh?
No, nothing. I still thought he was a Bengal for a second.
Oh, there you go.
So sees how much I care about Tyler Kroft.
Aaron Jones still not practicing with a hamstring injury.
There it is.
Bears wide receiver Riley Ridley missed Thursday's practice with a hamstring injury.
That's fine.
I'm over half my beer gone because of hamstring injuries.
Same here. Thanks, hamstrings.
Right.
The funny thing is, Riley Ridley is going to lose his job to
Javon Wims. Again.
Again.
Javon Wims has apparently looked really good.
I feel like this was a waste of the draft pick for them.
It was a waste of a draft pick. There's a reason I threw things. The forgotten member of the 49ers backfield, running back Jeff Wilson's going to miss 2 weeks with a calf injury.
Almost hamstring injury.
Jaguars rookie tight end Josh Oliver suffered a serious hamstring injury and is expected to miss multiple weeks. So,
does that mean we chug our beers? Is it serious?
Do you have more of that beer? Because I have more of this beer. We could chug our beer for a serious hamstring injury.
I won't chug the rest of it, but I probably will get another one at some point in time.
I probably will too, which this might be the first ever Beer Field episode that has an intermission.
Yes. Thanks, hamstring injuries. Thank you.
Right. Antonio Brown's missing practice time with a foot injury. He's expected to see a specialist day to day. Back to Josh Oliver, Jeff Swain for a second. Don't care about that too much until we see Nick Foles actually utilize a tight end.
Yes.
I mean, Josh Oliver had great reports coming out of camp, which, I mean, he's always been a dynasty play. So, I mean, that doesn't change.
No, he's probably still free in most leagues. So,
yep. Colts moved Spencer Ware to the reserve pup list. He's going to be sidelined at least 6 weeks and will require ankle surgery.
He may not play this year. Either way.
DK Metcalf missed Saturday's scrimmage with a strained oblique muscle. So
Ouch.
That already starts.
Yeah.
The DK Metcalf injuries. Did you put the Calvin Ridley note in here?
I did. I saw it on Twitter. I didn't see a source.
So he was, but he had returned to practice, I'm pretty sure.
Okay. So we don't have to drink.
Yeah, I had it in there and took it out because he returned to practice.
Perfect.
No, I don't want to do updates, Windows. Go away. Good thing we don't edit. You all get to know that my computer's annoying me about Windows updates. And then Falcons quarterback Kirk Binkert injured his toe in a Hall of Fame game. Is expected to be out for, quote, a while. So Matt Schaub gets another shot at life.
That's not good.
And in retirement news, 3 fantasy relevant players officially retired this week. Phil Dawson, kicker for most notably Cleveland. Jordy Nelson, wide receiver Green Bay. And Steven Jackson, the running back out of St. Louis. No, Los Angeles, but St. Louis because that's where he played. So,
shout out to them.
Yeah, fond memories for at least 2 of the 3 of those. They won people leagues at one point in time. Phil Dawson probably did too, 25 years ago when scores were still kept by hand. All right, it's training camp, so let's get to some hype. Let's find out who we're drinking the Kool-Aid on.
Are we drinking the Kool-Aid?
All right, starting off in Baltimore, when told Cam Newton's career high of 139 rushing attempts, Coach John Harbaugh stated to, quote, take the over with Lamar Jackson.
He went over last year.
Yeah.
So
I'm chugging this Kool-Aid.
yes, very much so.
Beer bonging
Before
it.
we move on,
Mhm.
we skipped over the main news.
What main news?
Like
Michael Thomas.
Michael Thomas being signed.
Oh, yeah, that was at the top. And I missed. Okay, back to news. Hold on. Wait a second. Professional publication.
News.
I love this place. I love this podcast.
Yes, I did hit the drop again. Completely missed the first part of news. Saints have signed wide receiver Michael Thomas to a 5-year, $100 million contract, ending his holdout. So,
61 million guaranteed, highest paid receiver in the league.
Yep.
At the moment.
So he's going to be there for a bit. Again, a lot of his dynasty value hinges on Drew Brees. A lot of it hinges on how this offense continues to go. Thomas is the one wide receiver, though, that despite the reduced passing volume, you're completely okay with.
Yeah, I feel like I've even ended the whole, past Brees. The fact that he's had multiple years of over 75% catch rate is just incredible. Thomas, I think it's going to be fine post Brees. It's just whether or not they decide to keep Teddy or bring in somebody else.
Yep.
Yeah.
Melvin Gordon's agents requested a trade as the holdout with the Chargers continues.
Well, maybe Houston. I know this came out before the injury to or not injury, but before Foreman got cut. But there are some running back needy teams that I think could use Melvin Gordon's ability here. Most little bit Tampa Bay.
Yeah. Tampa Bay, I still think he gets a deal done with the Chargers. I think this is just all posturing and peacocking and a dick measuring contest between the agent and the Chargers.
Yeah.
Ezekiel Elliott's holdout could drag on per month per Jerry Jones. So he's in Mexico right now. Zeke is.
This worries me a lot. This worries me a lot more than Gordon's the fact because he has to be, he has to be back in camp with the deal ready
the deal ready by the 6th. Otherwise, he's under contract with the Cowboys for another year because his contract doesn't toll. And the NFLPA will try to do something about it. But here's the thing. You are on a rookie deal. You were not in the last year of your deal. You're trying to hold out for more money when you're under contract. And the bargaining agreement doesn't protect you in this case. So the NFLPA is not really going to have grounds to stand on. There's not really grounds to stand on for a lawsuit. He's still making slot money. And quite honestly, you can make the argument that, is he worth more? Sure, but everybody has to go through this. So, if he doesn't report by the 6th, I think it's an incredibly stupid move on Zeke's part and his agent's part, which honestly isn't surprising. And I don't wish good things on Zeke ever. So I hope he does not report by the 6th.
I feel like he's going to find a way to flame out. Like we're going to be talking about him having a wasted career just because of all the off the field shit that he has to deal with.
And boy, is he trying really hard to make that the case.
I mean, we didn't personally meet Zeke. We've been around when he's done and said some pretty shitty things. So good fantasy player, never going to root for the guy though.
No, I can't root for the guy. And quite honestly, even this, you see players hold out. You see players veterans hold out when they want a new deal. You see players hold out typically in the last year of their deal, trying to garner that extension and not hit free agency. But holding out 2 years before your rookie deal's up because somebody picked up the option is not something we've seen a whole lot of. So, no. Gordon's holdout is different because he's in the last year of his rookie deal.
Yeah. You see players hold out because of that, because of the franchise tag, as we saw with Lev Bell the last year. So,
you don't normally see the Zeke situation, though.
I'm somehow not surprised that Zeke did this.
I'm not either. And Josh Gordon has applied for reinstatement to the NFL.
He's going free in all drafts at this point, and just given the wide receiver landscape and his familiarity with the offense and love of Tom Brady.
Yeah,
I
it
can
just depends on when the reinstatement actually happens. But if it happens at any point during training camp, he's going to be worth a pick.
I feel like I can finally like Josh Gordon and his ADP because he doesn't have one.
Yeah, no, I can too. And honest, so if he's reinstated in training camp, who are some guys that you put him around as far as where you're willing to spend?
It depends. I mean, for me, he's gonna jump up to where I have to look at our thing. I think round. I want to say around 7 or 8. I feel like it seems too rich, but I feel
Give
like
me some names.
Oh,
I have a name in mind as to who I'd draft him around.
Draft him around.
Yeah.
Names I see. I guess Corey Davis here. I don't feel terrible about that. Watkins, Westbrook.
Sammy Watkins was a name that immediately came to mind to me. A guy that has one upside and one potential, but always seems to have question marks or things surrounding them talent-wise and may not ever realize the, 1 or 2 seasons of greatness that you saw out of them. Sammy Watkins was exactly the name that came to mind for me as a guy that
I feel like
is
right
where
he
I'd slot Gordon in.
I feel like if he does, though, as we've seen over the last couple of years, name cachet alone is going to propel him to a couple rounds higher than I think than where most people feel comfortable taking him.
Hey, I can't control the people. I could only control where I rank him. That's where I'd rank him.
Exactly. All right.
People want to take him before that? By all means, do it. Okay, back to drinking the Kool-Aid.
Are we drinking the Kool-Aid?
Just going to talk over this drop as I play it for the second time. We already talked about the over of 139 rushing attempts to Lamar Jackson. We're both chugging that Kool-Aid straight out of a beer bong. Per Yahoo's Charles Robinson, the Rams want running back Darrell Henderson to serve as a Chris Thompson type of player.
I've always bought this. This has been what Sean McVay and company have talked about. So I see no issue in this. I mean,
I absolutely buy it as the type of player. I don't buy it as Chris Thompson target volume. I buy it for the role. I don't buy it as far as how often that role is utilized in comparison to how often a guy like Gurley might be utilized in the passing game.
That's fair. I mean, we've seen. I mean, Chris Thompson is arguably the best route runner as a running back out of the backfield. So that's high praise in terms of trying to compare him to that. In the fact that he's a rookie, I don't see that happening, but I do buy him as being more of a true pass catcher than a.
Well, and the other thing with that too is that when Chris Thompson was used heavily as a pass catcher, it was on teams that didn't have a ton of wide receiver depth. And if there's one thing the Rams have, I mean, they're 4 deep at good wide receivers. So
Rams are just deep everywhere, not just. I mean, almost every skill position on offense, they're deep on.
They've got 2 guys that would be surefire starters on other teams as far as tight ends go. They've got 4 wide receivers that would be relevant wherever they went. They've got 2 starting NFL caliber quarterbacks, 4 running backs that could be viable depending on how they're used. Yeah, they're ridiculous.
Yeah, they're going to be pretty good this year.
Yep. All right, Antonio Callaway has consistently been running with the second team in training camp, thus leaving third wide receiver spot to Rashard Higgins. I believe that's happening. I still don't care about Rashard Higgins and never have.
I know other reports came out that he's finally earned his way back on with the threes. There's another receiver that's been getting some talk to taking the wide receiver 3 spot. To me, I don't really care who the 3 is.
I don't either.
It's all Jarvis and Odell, and
it's Jarvis, Odell, and Njoku, and the running backs. I'm not interested in the 3.
Yeah,
they're not going to, because the defense is good, so they're not going to throw 600 plus times.
Exactly.
Keyshawn Johnson's continued to shine through the first week of camp. His route running has been praised. Meanwhile, Kevin White's listed as a starter on the Arizona depth chart. So, who are you taking? Andy Isabella's behind both of these guys right now. Christian Kirk and Fitzgerald are locked in as two of the starters. Who are you taking as a third?
It sounds like the depth chart that got leaked out was just from a beat reporter. It's got to be Keyshawn. We've heard no news about Kevin White at all, like none. Like,
no
good nor bad, and no news is not good news. So for me,
So it's not from
like,
the league depth chart. It's from Roto World and Cliff Kingsbury, by the way.
Okay. Then
So
I
this
guess
is coming from.
that should hold more weight. It's just it seems odd that all the praises. I mean, I guess if you want to reward a veteran in Kevin White as much of I guess as a veteran that he is.
He was a first-round pick. He did desperately need a change of scenery. So,
I mean, it'd be good for him if he gets that spot, but it sounds like Keyshawn's going to be, I guess earn that role through preseason.
And we'll see. And like with the Browns, I don't really care who the third wide receiver is in Arizona this year. If Kyler Murray comes out and is everything we hoped he dreamed of, or even shows that he's on that arc, then I'll care about it. And I'll care about Keyshawn Johnson in a couple of years, or Andy Isabella, or whoever emerges as the 3. But that year,
and if the Cardinals can actually average these 70 to 75 plays ran per game that
they want,
that they've been talked about doing. So
right. Bruce Arians is slated. He expects a good battle between Peyton Barber and Ronald Jones to be the team's starting running back. So the big takeaway there is that is a competition.
By good battle, do you mean by like Rock'em Sock'em robots,
water guns?
I guess this is a battle of like the pull.
It's a battle of cruiserweights.
God.
I hope it's Ronald Jones. I think he's overall more dynamic. I hope that he does enough in camp to justify the draft spot and justify how much we were hyping him. But the thing to note there is that it is an open competition. So that's going to be something to watch through preseason. That's the first thing. We've all kind of suspected that Ronald Jones would have a chance to take that spot. But now Arians is coming out and saying, yes, it's a competition. That's the first time I've seen him say that.
It just has to be Jones. He's more talented. It's just whether or not between the years he can get it done, and this, and this added on weight isn't gonna affect the way that he plays.
No.
That's all my worry is for him.
Yeah. Per the NFL Network's Michael Girardi, Jacoby Myers has outplayed N'Keal Harry early on.
Well,
that's actually not entirely unexpected. Jacoby Myers is a guy I was high on, and Jacoby Myers was a very refined route runner with decent athleticism that projects as the type of player that New England would like. I mean, he's a guy that's going to work out of the slot and over the middle more often than not. N'Keal Harry was an athletic talent that we knew needed some refining coming in and wasn't going to have any first-year relevance. So I believe it. It doesn't concern me.
Yeah, I mean, I just want James White and Julian Edelman. I guess Josh Gordon if he does come back, but
yeah, more of a dynasty note. And I think the dynasty takeaway here is that Jacoby Myers should be rostered.
He is definitely worth a pickup because if there's anything that we've learned is that Brady can make the most irrelevant receivers relevant for at least a few weeks.
Well, and he's a type of wide receiver that this offense knows how to utilize.
Exactly.
Especially now that Brady's like 90.
Yeah.
Yahoo's Charles Robinson reports the Broncos are feeling good about Royce Freeman and finally hope to, quote, establish a true split at running back.
This is what concerns me, even with the theoretic news, is that this is going to be a true just running back by committee. Royce is going to get the short work. Lindsey, I guess, can see the beyond the 20s. This feels like avoid Denver backfield or take the most value in terms of ADP, and that's going to be Royce.
Yeah, I agree with that. I do think that Royce is going to be the best pickup. I do believe that it's going to be a split too.
Yeah, this feels. I mean, this is entirely a new coaching staff. So, granted, they didn't draft Royce, but Royce was the more talented back coming out. I love Philip Lindsay's story, and I hope that he can continue to do well. But he's not built to be an every down back.
No, he's not.
Have the size for it, and you saw that happen, and you got to see his wear and tear build up, and as he wore down towards the end of the season.
Mm-hmm. Hunter Renfro's, quote, dusted Ryan Grant for the third wide receiver spot in Oakland so far.
Good for him. I'm so happy that he's a thing.
I am happy that he's a thing too. I don't know that it's worth much other than a bench stash maybe for a floor type. You could see some Adam Humphries type of relevance, but yeah, I'm happy about it. I'm glad Hunter Renfrow is getting some recognition and justifying the little bit of hype I gave him.
Yep.
Speaking of things you should be happy about from 2 years ago, Trent Taylor's taken his receiving game to a new level at 49ers camp.
Man, Twitter is blowing up about this. The fact that he's got a nice rapport that he's built up with Garoppolo in the few games that they played together.
It's the Edelman role. It came from New England.
Exactly. And it's someone that has showed upside throughout his short career so far.
Hasn't been healthy, though.
Yeah, exactly. I'm not sure how much it's going to actually show in terms of fantasy upside to him, but in deep leagues and like even in Dynasty, even with the draft of Deebo Samuel and Jalen Hurd, it shows that Trent Taylor has earned a spot and should have earned a spot on all Dynasty rosters.
He more so than Hunter Renfrow should be rostered, and Trent Taylor right now is looking like what we all hope Deshaun Hamilton could be. So
that's fair.
Stash him, because
exactly.
we've talked a lot about. I mean, if there's a late round floor guy that's worth a shot based on their hype right now, it's probably Trent Taylor. And we've talked a lot about Garoppolo coming back and rapport having to be reestablished, and if he's got that reestablished rapport more so than you've heard good things about Dante Pettis, Marquise Goodwin's falling off the planet seemingly, but it's worth a stash.
Yeah, I agree.
Jameis Winston has shown, quote, consistency in training camp per Bruce Arians.
So he's not throwing interceptions?
That's the big takeaway there for me, and I'm drinking this in all day, because if Winston's being consistent, which has been the thing that's plagued him throughout his career, or maybe he's consistently throwing interceptions, I don't know, but
he's consistently inconsistent.
Or that. But hey, if there's reports coming out that he's consistent, then I'm happy about that.
Yeah, it's good to see him we're hoping he takes the next level, because we have, as a podcast, despite Nick's best efforts in year 1 and 2, we have drank the Winston Kool-Aid incredibly much.
And I'm still drinking the Winston Kool-Aid.
I know you are. I've cooled down a bit.
It's a permanent IV.
Through my veins.
Yep. Carlos Hyde's been praised for taking advantage of Dame Williams' absence.
Yeah. I figured I'd throw that in there.
Yeah, I appreciate that from you.
It's pretty funny, just despite the reports that he may be a roster cut. Of all reports, all the running backs have looked good given their chances. I've never been high on Carlos Williams, especially after the carousel of teams that he's been on. But this is a backfield to watch if Williams can't get healthy. This as much as I'm going to talk about it, because we've spent a lot of time debating Damian Williams.
We have, and I don't want to do it anymore. All right, Laugh Out Loud News of the Week. We are...
Laugh Out Loud News of the Week.
Thank you for attending our 45-minute news episode. We haven't even gotten to the meat of this one yet.
I know. Well, we only do one a week, so if you stay at this line, thank you.
Yep, thanks. Raiders coach Sean Gruden said, quote, "This Nathan Peterman guy is growing on me."
I mean, he liked him.
He
liked him last year when you were talking about him.
I like Nathan Peterman. I'm the only one. But I like Nathan Peterman.
It's you and John Gruden.
Me and John Gruden are the only two people that like Nathan Peterman.
Nothing would be more on brand for you if Nathan Peterman beat out Derek Carr somehow.
You're absolutely right. I would send John Gruden a Valentine's Day card if that happened.
Oh, God, it'd be great.
The Redskins plan to get tackle Trent Williams to report is to let his massive fines pile up to the tune of $40,000 a day. Williams, in response, said, quote, "I don't care about the fines," and plans to sit out the whole season if he needs to. So
this is a really interesting. I feel really bad because Williams has gotten the shit into the stick here, and it paints an even worse picture on this Washington.
Snyder's one of the worst owners in the NFL.
Yeah,
and
it's so bad.
Trent Williams, for the last 3 years, has played hurt. He's played through injuries. He's been on the field despite not should have been on the field. He's been a grinder. He's done everything that team has needed him to do. And if there's one person that deserves to hold out and be paid based on what they've done, it's Trent Williams. And while this isn't it is kind of fantasy relevant because he's the best offensive lineman they've had, and the Redskins' O-line injuries are well documented. This type of steadfast, we're not going to pay you, we'll just find the shit out of you, towards a guy that's done that for that franchise is not going to sit well with, any free agents they might be trying to lure or anything they're trying to do there.
Yeah, it's just not a good thing.
Not a good look.
No.
And then this is well known by now, but Steven Jackson was selected for a random drug test on his one-day retirement contract with the Rams.
This is per Nick through text. I hope he takes his what is it? He takes his drug test while smoking a blunt.
Yeah. That would have been great. He's like, yeah, I'm not taking that.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's no way he's coming back, so why not?
Like, how beefed up did he look? Like, did he walk in and just completely ripped, and they're just like, "Yeah, you're on drugs."
Did he just somehow, when they generated the random list that day, show up on it? I don't know.
That'd been great.
All right, let's get into the rankings, and we're gonna try to do this rapid fire.
I'm gonna grab a beer while we do this, or this drops.
Okay, I'm gonna grab a beer while this drops also, and we'll see if we make it back before the drops.
Rankings.
Back.
All right, and I'm back. I don't know how long of a silent spot there's gonna be there, but I made it.
We do it live.
We do it live, no editing.
No editing.
All right. All right. Out of breath. The Elite Tour tier things. Number 1, DeAndre Hopkins. 2, Devontae Adams. 3, Juju Smith-Schuster. 4, Tyreek Hill. So Hopkins, I think we're confident in Hopkins as a wide receiver, is the number 1 wide receiver.
Yeah.
I mean, he's proven year in, year out he can do it despite just throwing it in the football. So not going to talk about that.
Nope.
Devontae Adams. Is it possible that another guy emerging can kind of hurt his cause or hurt his value a little bit? Let's say that you got a new offense coming in. Let's say Valdez Scantling emerges. Geronimo Allison as advertised. Aaron Jones continues to be good, and Devontae Adams is not the sole focal piece of that passing game anymore. Do you think that hurts his value as a number 2 ranked receiver?
No, I think it actually helps. I think this could help open up the offense more, allow the offense a chance to keep drives alive if they completely cover or shadow Adams. It's just would lead to more touchdowns in terms of more red zone opportunities. So for me, it's not a bad thing at all.
Yeah. Touchdowns are already sky high, so to me, I think it could fade him back to the next tier if that does happen, if he does lose any form of target volume or anything like that. So something to keep an eye on. There's a bit more risk with him, I think, than Hopkins or Juju. He is still my number 2 as well, just because of the upside that's there, but something to be wary of.
Sure.
Juju Smith-Schuster without Antonio Brown. We've kind of talked about this at length. I have no concerns with him being a top 3 wide receiver. He already saw 170 targets and was a wide receiver 1 before Brown's 184 left out.
I've called it on in the show during our division, during the AFC North Division preview, and on Twitter. I think Juju is going to be this year's Devontae Adams. I will not be surprised if he's the wide receiver 1 for next year's drafts in both dynasty and redraft.
Nope, I'm not either. And Tyreek Hill being reinstated and not missing time. The thigh injury was revealed to be just a thigh bruise. He's already back at practice. I don't have any concerns here either. You're on an explosive offense with Patrick Mahomes. You're a guy that can make explosive plays, despite what you are personally. Tyreek Hill projected as my number 1 wide receiver on a points per game basis. He only was faded because it's not quite as consistent as a Juju and Adams or a Hopkins.
Yeah, I feel like the only thing that could derail Hill is if there's more evidence that comes out supporting the shit that has been going on with him.
Right, or a case opens back up.
Yeah.
All right, guys that just missed the Elite, but you're still okay with Odell Beckham Jr. going to the Browns. Is this better or worse than the Giants for him?
This is obviously far better. He's not gonna. Jarvis Landry could take some targets away. But this is Baker Mayfield throwing him the football on an offense that projects to be probably top 10 in the league. So this is we could see Odell reach his actual ceiling and again be drafted as the number 1 in both redraft and dynasty.
I'm going to take the other side of the argument and say it's probably a little bit worse for Odell. Just because Jarvis is there, who also demands targets. He never had I mean, Ingram and Shepard, sure, they got their targets, but I think Jarvis demands a little bit more than a Sterling Shepard does. You've also got a defense here that's a team that's not going to be playing from behind as much. So I think from a volume perspective, it's actually going to go down a bit, which is why he's at 5 for me and not at 2 or 3. So for those that are asking why he's not top 3, that's the reason why right there. I don't think that the volume is necessarily going to be there on a team with a better defense and overall better options around him as well. Still think he's going to get a significant number of amount of volume. Still think he's locked for top 6.
I think you can make an argument for the top 9 on why they should be the number 1 receiver in your ranking. Which is why I love the receiver depth this year, which just speaks to why Odell is, I think, also my number. I think it's by 6.
Yep.
So either way, he's still going to be really good this year.
All right, at 6 we got Julio Jones. Jones seems to be getting a lot more hype this year than normal, but I mean the knock on Jones is just he doesn't have the touchdown upside as the guys ahead of him. And that's basically it. Yes, there's a lot of yardage upside, but it's not an offense where he is the only guy now either. I mean, you had a couple of years there where he was nearing 2,000 yards and 200 plus targets before Austin Hooper's breakout, after Tony Gonzalez left. Mohamed Sanu wasn't demanding a ton of targets, but you fold in Calvin Ridley, you fold in an Austin Hooper breakout, and then him coming back a bit slowly from a foot injury. He's going to sit at 6 for me. I still think there's a ton of yardage there. You're going to be in the 4 to 6 touchdown range, but not as much touchdown upside as some of the other guys.
Yeah, I think he'll move down ever so slightly. He'll still be a part of the echelon because the yardage himself can propel him to a top 3 finish. Just whether or not he can reach double-digit touchdowns again.
Yep. All right, at number 7, we got Michael Thomas. We already talked about him a bit in the intro. I have no concerns with Michael Thomas and the reduced passing volume because he's the one guy there, basically. He's consistent, so I have no issues with Michael Thomas. Antonio Brown, him going to the Raiders and the foot injury is what has him from 1 down to 8. Going to the Raiders, obviously, is not Big Ben throwing the football. It's Derek Carr. Yes, Carr was plagued by wide receiver problems last year, them dropping passes, but I don't expect that offense to generate nearly the volume that Pittsburgh did on a year-in, year-out basis. And then you've got Antonio Brown dealing with the foot injury, and he's supposedly seeing a specialist here coming up. So that's also a bit concerning to me.
Yeah, it's just not the same type of touchdown upside in terms of it is Derek Carr. They're not going to produce the amount of points per game that she likes. You have to fade Brown a bit. Likely won't see double-digit touchdowns, but not surprised if he finishes as a top 5 receiver.
No, I won't be either. And then Mike Evans coming in at number 9. He's just year in, year out, right in that 6 to 9 range in rankings. There's no rhyme or reason to change that.
Nope.
All right. Next tier, this is why going running back heavy early is okay tier. You got Keenan Allen, who again was super consistent last year. He's been healthy the last couple of years. Yes, there are reports he left with a lower leg injury. No, I did not see anything that suggests that is serious or even reported on with it. So not concerned about that.
He might move up if this Melvin Gordon thing continues into the season.
He could, because the offense is going to have to run through him.
Yeah, he could see that was 2 years ago, second half of the season type of volume where it just touchdowns propel him to the number 1 receiver.
Yep. At 11, we got T.Y. Hilton, consistently explosive, consistently right in this range. 12, we got Stephon Diggs, and the question here has been why Diggs over Thielen, I forget, are you a Diggs over Thielen type too?
We are. We're both higher on Diggs, but by just a couple slots here. For me, it's just just a couple of things. Diggs is obviously the higher upside play. I would take Diggs over Thielen if he's my second receiver. I would actually probably take Thielen over Diggs if he's my first receiver, mainly because of health. I can trust Thielen a little bit more, but Diggs' upside is unreal. And if you ever played a full 16, there's a very good chance he finishes as a top 7 receiver.
Yep, I can agree with that entirely. Stephon Diggs, starting just 14 games last year, he had 149 targets, 102 receptions, over 1,000 yards, and 9 touchdowns, 30% of the end zone target share. If Diggs can ever put together a full season, you're going to see why he's going to end up as a top 10 receiver. So he's a little bit more consistent than Thielen, who yes, put together the amazing string last year, but also fell off the face of the planet the last 8 games.
Yeah.
So he's been that way for multiple years. So Stephon Diggs over Adam Thielen at 12. At 13, we've got Brandon Cooks. Again, just he's proven that he can be more than a deep threat. So he's going to lead us on
I
range
actually
wide
can't
receivers.
wait to I can't wait to see what he does within the same offense finally 2 years in a row.
Yeah. I can't either.
First.
Amari Cooper checks in at number 14 for us. So with him, it's kind of when we ranked him, we had to think, what does a full season like Dak look like? And the answer, he was on pace for 134 targets, 1,200 yards, and 11 touchdowns. Dak Prescott.
Yeah, he's on pace for wide receiver 1 season. Yeah, you have to battle with some of the inconsistencies with Cooper. But this is the best receiving core Dak has had. If the Cowboys want to pay Dak franchise QB money, there's got to be a reason behind it, which is going to allow him to throw the football. If Zeke's holdout lasts longer, this offense now shifts to probably a more passing centric offense. So upside if Zeke misses time too.
Yep. All right, next tier, the half of these guys will probably end up a wide receiver 1, but we can't project them there, tier.
That's the best tier name ever. Next to Lamar Miller 1 and the RB. So
Adam Thielen, we already kind of talked about him. He does have very similar upside to Stephon Diggs, similar target numbers, similar red zone productivity. It's just a matter of being consistently utilized. Julian Edelman just has to stay healthy. Tyler Lockett. And this is the breakout candidate that is getting less noise than, guys like Chris Godwin. There's somebody else, too, that is a popular breakout candidate that I can't think of off the top of my head. We'll
Christian
get
Kirk getting it more.
Christian Kirk, DJ Moore.
Yeah.
Tyler Lockett's the one not really being talked about. But the fact is, with no Doug Baldwin, that's going to free up about 80 targets. And Tyler Lockett on what he, going to a wide receiver 1 role, you shouldn't have any concerns about that. And the reason is he was dominating in that 2 role. He was 1st in yards per target, 10th in yards per reception, 8th in target quality, 4th in catch rate, 2nd in true catch rate, 12th in separation, 0 drops, 88.9% contested catch rate, and number 1 in QBR when targeted, 6th in fantasy points per pass route, and 1st in fantasy points per target. That's why Tyler Lockett's going to be a wide receiver 1.
That's good. He's going to assume the Doug Baldwin role. He's going to assume that type of flanker role, which means he may lose some of the target, some of the depth of target, and maybe a little bit of the yards per reception. But the increase in target share, he's still a very viable, as the topper just mentioned, a very viable deep threat. And just the fact that Wilson just has an eye for him regardless of wherever he is in the field. Lockett is you can lock it in that he is going to be a top 15 receiver.
Yeah, I agree with that completely. There's nothing to think that he cannot produce in that Doug Baldwin role. There's just absolutely nothing there. So
exactly.
Cooper Kupp. So you've got Woods and Kupp flipped. So Dan, what's your reason for being lower on Cooper Kupp? Is it just the injuries? I know that we've talked about Kupp a lot on this show. So if it's just the thought that he's not going to come back as well from the ACL, just say it. But we've talked about the pace of Cooper Kupp, what he was on pace to do before the injury. So is it just the knee injury that has you concerned?
Yeah, he injured the ACL one in week 7. It hasn't been a full year since his recovery. So for me, I do expect a slower start for him. He is definitely a second half of the season buy. I just don't buy into him being completely ready by week 1 to the point where he's going to see similar, targets and his snap volume to guys like Cooks and Woods.
So to that, I'll say, and we won't rehash the debate. Go back and listen to the NFC West episode if you want to hear that. We've had this debate twice already, I think. But to that, I'll say he's checked every box so far. He said in the offseason he was going to be ready by week 1. He comes back to camp. He avoids the PUP list. There's been no negatives coming out on him in practice. Yes, they're taking it easy with him in camp. With the idea of being a full go on week 1, there's been nothing on a setback. He was on a tear on the way there. We know not all ACL injuries are created equal, and not everybody recovers from them at the same pace. So I'm just taking the other side of the cup or the coin that Kupp is going to hit the ground running. So Those are the two arguments, though.
I want him to not be an issue because it'd be great value if not. I'm just side on the side of caution.
You're
here.
being more cautious, which is normally my shtick,
Which
and
is
I'm
weird
being
for
very,
us. Yeah,
and
we
I'm being
flip.
very, very bullish on a player that I've traditionally been very bullish about. So
Yep.
that's
That's
just
crazy.
how I do with my guys. Defend them to the death.
My
If
boo.
I like you, always going to be in your corner. I don't like you, gonna take a lot for me to come around. More on that later, Curtis Samuel.
Curtis Samuel.
Alshon Jeffrey, not. We know what he is. He's not going to be a high volume guy. He's not going to be a high yardage guy. He has the potential to be a high touchdown guy, but he is going to settle in as a solid wide receiver too. Most years.
I agree.
As long as he's healthy. Tyler Boyd and AJ Green, we have them ranked back to back at 20 and 21. I adjusted my rankings for the Green injury before we put these inconsistent, but it's just, how does Tyler Boyd benefit from Green's ankle injury? Does he necessarily jump up that much the first couple weeks when Green isn't there? And when Green comes back, does he hit the ground running as, that top 15 fantasy wide receiver he was expected to be? Or does he get back to it a bit slower with it being an ankle injury?
I mean, we've talked about this, I think, a couple weeks ago when the news broke out. Just with, as for Boyd wise, I don't know how much changed after Green got hurt. You can say, shifted coverage to his side, changed his trajectory, but he also played with Jeff Driscoll. So that's as much as we want to hate on Andy Dalton, that's a massive downgrade. So for that, it's a wait and see. This is going to be a low volume offense. It's going to be one of the worst offenses in football. So you can shy on the low end of touchdowns for him, but volume should be there for sure. He should be more of a floor play than an upside play. As for AJ Green, what is he, 31 years old, dealt with multiple foot injuries, been banged up through the last 4 seasons. As much as I love AJ Green, this injury concerns me more of a long-term, and see Devonta Freeman last year, where this could be lingering all season long and you end up, paying for him in terms of value wise more than you want to. Now he's slipping in ADP. You can probably get him a bit later, obviously, now than you could, a few weeks ago. It's just when you take Green, is he your wide receiver 4 or 5 where you can eat that type of sink? Or are you going, running back heavy or tight end without receivers being drafted and he's your number 3 or 4? And that's where things get a little bit concerning for me.
I'm okay with taking Green as my 3rd wide receiver off the board, or even my 2nd. As long as I can get a couple guys that I can rely on as 2 or 3 throughout the season that have
That's
a favorable first 3 to 4 games.
I think you have to insulate the value with Green, which means you have to, if you take Green early, like you said, you're gonna have to draft other receivers behind him that you feel comfortable plugging and playing while you wait for Green to come back.
And you're going to have to pay attention to schedules and everything to make that happen, too.
Exactly.
That's when you get into breaking it down week to week and who's got good matchups. And, those first 3 to 4 games that AJ Green is going to miss, who's a guy that I might be able to draft later that may perform that first couple weeks as a top 24 wide receiver. Yeah. And that's what you're going to be looking for.
Yep.
More on those recommendations as we get closer to the season. That might be a YouTube special episode. Who knows?
Probably.
All right. All the upside lives here tier. We got Robert Woods coming in at 22. We already kind of talked about him. The flip-flop between Dan and I and Robert Woods is just basically how we view Cooper Kupp. It's not an indictment on Woods at all. Nope. That I'm lower on him or that Dan's higher on him. Kenny Golladay. So can he succeed in a run-first offense, and what is his true upside? So it's tough. For me, I believe he can, because even in run-first offenses like Seattle, which is the extreme combination of run-first, we've seen that offense, even in those years where they were run-first, produce a wide receiver 1. Kenny Golladay is a big outside guy who's got touchdown upside. We've seen him progress consistently over the last 2 years. I do think he can produce as a top 24 wide receiver in that offense.
I completely agree. We got to see both ends of the spectrum last year when Jones got hurt and they traded Golden Tate, and I believe they lost Kerryon Johnson at that time, where even if he's a focal point of the offense, he can be hit or miss. I think he had games of 9-11 receptions, but 9 11, 13 targets, but he also only had a few receptions. So
yeah,
you have to see, as I said, both ends of the spectrum there. I think he can do it. I think a healthy
Jameis
Marvin
Winston
Jones.
of wide receivers.
Yeah. Without the interception.
There's a ton of upside there. It's just inconsistent.
Yeah, it's just I think a healthy Marvin Jones and a healthy Kerryon Johnson helps him. Even if this is a run first offense, it's I think there's enough target volume for him to be at least a back end two. It may not be sexy at times, but I think he can definitely get there.
Yep. 24, we got Chris Godwin, who is probably the most talked about breakout candidate this year, and the hype is completely justified with him.
I think there is, I forgot what the article was, but someone wrote one recently that he was a massive sleeper.
Yeah, like, there ain't anybody sleeping on Chris Godwin.
No one. I think people that aren't sleeping on Chris Godwin.
Yeah,
so.
nobody. Sleeping Beauty isn't even sleeping on Chris Godwin.
Yeah. She's wide awake.
Everybody fully expects Chris Godwin to take that next step, and he's shown the first couple of years why. He's progressed very nicely. He's a red zone threat. You got Bruce Arians coming in with a quarterback gunslinger type, and is going to support multiple fantasy relevant wide receivers.
There's been a bunch of praise in the offseason. Obviously, Bruce Arians is known for his eccentric coach speak during the offseason, but there's a lot of reason for it. His ADP is almost maxed the value point to it, so be careful. We haven't reached the pinnacle of the casual and casually competitive players. Reaching on guys like Chris Godwin and Dante Pettis.
You got to hope over the next couple of weeks, once that influx happens, that it's going to drive him down as opposed to up.
Yeah, I
got to hope it's an analyst thing that is. But the thing is, when you have analysts talking about it, that's where your slightly better than casual players are going to pick it up. So he's not a household name yet. He will be after this year.
He's gonna be a guy I think a lot of people will reach on. So I may not own him a lot in redraft.
Sadly. Yeah. Well, I own him in Dynasty, so I'm happy about that.
Same here. Now.
All right, DJ Moore. Similar upside to Chris Godwin. Higher, lower?
I think I think it could be higher.
They're ranked back to back, so I'd assume it's similar.
He's number one. He's the number one in this offense. It's just whether or not the passing volume. And Cam seems, his shoulder seems fine. His throwing motion actually has changed. It looks better than the shit that he's put out in his few years. But I think all the upside is there in the world. There's a reason why he was one of the more highly touted draft picks last year.
Yep, I agree with that. He was a good route runner coming out. He's super athletic, and he produced. He's a bit ahead of the curve. He produced as you would expect a year 2 wide receiver to produce in year 1, which means he also should be slated to break out this year.
Yeah,
as long as the volume's there and the offense keeps up.
Yep.
All right, Allen Robinson. So I'm 11 spots lower than you on Allen Robinson.
I know.
As a Bears fan. So I'm just going to go ahead and speak my concerns with Allen Robinson, and you rebuttal whatever you need to. But target volume is the first concern I have with him, honestly. You've got mouths to feed in an offense with an incredibly good defense. You've got Trey Burton, you've got Tariq Cohen, you've got a running game that they're going to try to utilize a bit more. Anthony Miller. It's not a one-horse show here. Robinson's 105th in separation. That has got to get better, and it could be that it was just a year removed from the injury. But there also appeared to be a rapport issue with Mitch Trubisky as well, so if that improves, you're good, but you're betting on that. All the quarterback ratings, I don't have them in front of me, but all of the quarterback ratings as far as, QBR when targeted, target quality, all of that for Allen Robinson was way down, which could also be attributed to the fact that he isn't separating. Because contested catch rate was below 50%, so if you're not separating, you should have a decent contested catch rate, but 41.7 there. Yards per route, yards per target, yards per reception were all outside of the top 35, and he missed 3 games, which shows that he still has some problems being healthy. So for me to bet on Allen Robinson as anything other than my third wide receiver, especially with some of the upside you can get down through like 24, 25, 26, I'm just not willing to do it. I don't see Allen Robinson as a huge upside play to the way I do see like a Galladay, Godwin, Moore, Woods, the guys directly in front of him, Boyd, Jeffrey. Even I could make an argument for Robbie Anderson and Calvin Ridley ahead of him. So It's just a matter of the rapport with Trubisky and, the fact that there's nothing underlying with Robinson that says that he can help that along.
Yeah. So with injuries, they've always been there for his career. I don't think he's played I think he's only played a couple
two.
of seasons. He was hurt his rookie year when he started to break out. But not going off of that too much. If you're going to believe that Trubisky is going to take the next step, you have to believe it's going to be with Allen Robinson. There's no receiver quite built like him, at least in terms of the top three. It's him. Likely the guy behind him is going to be Javon Wims, because you have a plethora of other receivers behind him that are roughly
You're betting
similar.
Wims over Miller?
Miller has his own value. He's the number two. I think. I'm not saying that Wims
You said guy directly behind him was Javon Wims, so I didn't know if that meant the wide receiver 2 in the offense or
no. So obviously Miller is going to be the number two. I'm the guy probably on the depth chart directly behind.
Okay, that makes more sense.
I apologize for the
because Miller's going to play out of the slot, not outside.
Yes, and you have Marvin Hall, Cordero Patterson,
Taylor
and
Gabriel
all playing the I guess flanker type of role, whatever the hell you want to call it for them. There's still a lot of upside. You had a 68.1% catchable target rate, which is going to improve as Trubisky improves. True catch rate for how low his catchable target rate at 86% shows that there's still something there. Again, year removed from the ACL injury, and hopefully he can remain healthy.
I hope that helps the separation numbers, honestly. I really do.
It should. I don't think he's always been a high separation guy. It's just, again, he's still young enough to where he can use his athleticism, improvement in the offense, should see more red zone opportunity and red zone touchdowns. I'm not paying top 15, 20 for him as he's been of years past. So
I'll take him as a 3 with 2 upside.
Yeah, and I think that's where most people are taking him, unless you go running back heavy.
Yeah, I just think that I've got him at 30. I've got him at 31 again, and that's just, again, it's how pass heavy do I expect that offense to be?
Yep.
And it's just looking at the guys in front of him, and I would rather have the 3 guys directly in front of him that I think have a higher ceiling than what Allen Robinson does, even if that rapport with Trubisky does improve.
So. I can see a case for Emerson. For me, yeah, it's all about preference at this point. I'm okay with taking the number one in an offense I expect to get better.
Yep. All right. Moving on, Calvin Ridley. I think Robbie Anderson, can't skip him. He's got a full year at Darnold. We saw him come on late last year. He's a guy that's being, I don't want to say tremendously undervalued, but he should be drafted as a 3 with 2 upside in that offense. Yes, a lot of it's going to go through Le'Veon Bell, but he's going to be the number 1 wide receiver on the Jets. Anything else on Robbie Anderson to add to that?
No, he's going to be of great value and someone that you're going to likely have to draft in the 4th and 5th round next year.
Yep. Calvin Ridley, I think the case for us being separated on him is just the touchdown regression points.
Yeah.
He had 10 touchdowns, which kind of masked the 92 targets to 821 yards. He only had 6 end zone targets, though, and 9 in the red zone. So that doesn't say they were targeting him a ton down there. It was just kind of a fluky thing where he had a lot of breakaway touchdowns. He was 6 in separation, 6 in quarterback rating, 9th in points per target. So what that tells me is that if his volume were to ever go up significantly, then yes, he can live up to that wide receiver 2 type of billing. But with Mohamed Sanu still there and Austin Hooper on the breakout, and Julio Jones, I don't see the volume increasing that much yet. And with touchdowns being fluky, that's kind of why he's down here.
Yeah, I mean, he was really a boom bust after his breakout in the beginning part of the season. And as you'd mentioned, I think you hit the nail on the head there. It's all about volume. Many people expect Matt Ryan to go back to the Dirk Cutter years of 2012 to 14 when they had a horrible run, or when they had a horrible defense and a really pretty bad run game at that point. I don't expect that. I expect the running game to be better and the defense to be a lot better than last year because they're healthy, which means a little bit less passing volume than people expect, which again hurts really its underlying numbers. Is there upside? Of course. Great best ball player. You can score from anywhere on the field. It's just, as we saw last year, he's a little more touchdown dependent than I want in redraft leagues.
Yep, I can agree with that. Christian Kirk, we know about his upside. We talked about him a lot in the NFC West episode. I still expect him to be behind Larry Fitzgerald, but he is in a better offense with a better quarterback, but a lot of question marks around that.
Yeah.
Dante Pettis, his hype's right there with Godwin's as far as breakout, and he's a lot like DJ Moore in the sense of he came into the league last year and produced and flashed like you'd expect a second-year guy to produce. So if he can stay healthy, you really expect good things from him, and if he can get that rapport with Jimmy Garoppolo, those are the question marks are health and Garoppolo, but he led the league in target separation. 3 of his last 5 games, once he was finally healthy, were 75-plus yards performances, and he had 4 touchdowns over that time frame. So a lot of upside with Pettis, but a couple more question marks than you have around guys like Godwin, Moore, Galladay, Woods to push him down.
Yeah, I mean, he's going... hold on, I gotta change to the right scoring settings. Right now, I think he is the 608 right now per ADP. He's a round ahead of Chris Godwin, or he's 2 rounds almost behind Chris Godwin. So if you believe similar hype with you can get a more discounted Godwin in Pettis. The fact is, though, he has to build a rapport with Garoppolo. Garoppolo's only played 7 games, so I think he hit on. He still has to, I guess, compete with George Kittle. They drafted a more athletic version of him and Deebo Samuel. But again, Samuel's a rookie. Pettis has already proved that he can be at least a viable 2, low 2. It really depends on the offense. If they can really hit their mark, they're going to have to throw a lot just given what division that they're in. It's just not. I like his ADP. I'm fine with this 608 right now. I won't go much higher though.
Yeah, I won't go much higher than round 6 for Pettis either. 5 or 6 is probably about where I would take him. He does have tremendous upside. It's just you got a young guy that hasn't shown it yet with technically a different quarterback. So just you kind of want to see it before you spend much above that.
Yeah, I'm fair. I'm fine with it. If you take him as your 3, if you go wide receiver heavy, I think, or even 4, I think you're fine.
Yep. Jarvis Landry, we talked about him earlier on with Odell Beckham. His target volume is obviously going to go down, but he gets to be but I think his efficiency goes up because he gets to be slotted in as a 2.
He'll be fine. He may not see the target volume that you want, but I think
you're not getting Miami Jarvis Landry, so don't expect it.
I think you may see an uptick in yards per reception, even a possible chance in touchdowns, even more touchdowns, because this is the best offense that he's been on in his career.
The best you can hope for is an AB Juju type situation, but like year 1 Juju, where this is like a wide receiver 24, 25, 26 type.
You're hoping that he can get the Michael Thomas catch rate with
another guy in front of him.
Yeah, decent target volume.
Yep. All right, let's hit a beer review, and then we'll get into some cleanup stuff.
Okay.
Beer review.
All right, what did you think of Funkin' Groovin'?
I finished the beer a long time ago. I actually switched beers because I didn't want to keep taking Katrina's beer. I've had it before.
You should keep taking Hurricane's beer.
I know I should. Either way, speaking on Funkin' Groovin', it is very juicy up front, heavy grapefruit, obviously, especially on the nose. It's a little even slightly funky, just given the sourness of it. They brewed half the beer as a New England style, and the other half is a true kettle sour. So you get the slight difference. The color is actually really light for a New England style. If you guys saw it on film, I don't know if I put it on camera or not. It is very sour finish though. It's a really unique New England, and I think it speaks to, I think more breweries should do tart IPAs because I think there's a good market for it there as sours continues to grow more in popularity.
All right, and actually, it's an interesting take. I'd love to try that one, so I'll try to get my hands on it at some point. But when you get a hybrid like that between a sour and a New England, it's going to be interesting. It's either going to work out really well or not really well. So I'm glad to hear it worked out well. As for me, I had Mountain Jam Volume 4. It's a hazy IPA that is supposed to have strawberry and kiwi in it. Pairs well with Thai food and a thing called love, according to the label. Just good.
Darkness?
Yeah. I believe in a thing called love.
There it is.
It's a very, very good hazy. I don't get the kiwi and strawberry off of it at all. And again, strawberry, like raspberry, like we were talking about before we got on the air, very, very hard flavor to impart in a beer. And the kiwi doesn't necessarily stick out because of the hops that go with the New England style. So, without the lactose sugar there to subdue it, like you kind of get in milkshakes, I think that the bittering hop in this kind of overwhelmed everything else because it is a bit bitter up front, and then as you get to it, you still get more of the juicy kind of almost piney hoppiness that you'd get out of a New England, but I just don't get any of the strawberry and kiwi off of it. So if it had just been marketed as a New England IPA, I'm saying, yeah, it's an incredibly solid New England IPA or incredibly solid hazy IPA. But yeah, the strawberry and kiwi just don't come out of it at all for me. So,
Okay.
that's not to say it's bad. It's still very, very good for a hazy. It's just, not matching up what's on the side of the can for me flavor-wise.
That's fair.
All right. Well, that being said, Roadhouse, thank you very much. I picked you up while I was in Colorado. So, very, very solid. It was not a bad beer. I would try more of their stuff based on this. It's just not as advertised on the side of the hand. And distill, we already know anything distill puts sour or tart or whatever into. That's where they specialize. That's where they live. And they're very, very good at that. All right. Let's get back to the end of this and round it out. Number 32, we got Larry Fitzgerald. My question was, is there still a case for him to be a top 24 wide receiver? And my argument for that is yes. He was 81st in catchable target rate, 90th in target quality. True catch rate was 24 points higher than his actual. He still had no drops. 14th in contested catch rate, and target accuracy was 89th. What that tells me is there was a Josh Rosen problem / an offense problem, not a Larry Fitzgerald problem. He's never seen under 100 targets. Last year, he broke a straight of 4 straight 1,000-yard seasons, and his yards per target fell majorly. Again, a quarterback problem, not a Fitzgerald problem. I think if Kyler Murray comes in as advertised, and Cliff Kingsbury comes in at least even a fraction as advertised, that Larry Fitzgerald could bounce back.
I mean, he could. I guess for me, is I expect Christian Kirk, who's more fitted for the offense that Cliff Kingsbury wants to run. The fact that they want to be massively up tempo, run a bunch of fucking plays. I don't know if that lends well to an aging Larry Fitzgerald. I want Fitzgerald to be a thing. Been a massive fan of his since his many, many years ago, even through all of his controversy. But for me, is I think it's tough to say because with the hype of Keyshawn Johnson, even though I know yes is a rookie, I think he's going to be taking a lot more plays off. They wanted to keep him healthy throughout the game. Is there a case for him to be there? Yeah, especially if Christian Kirk gets hurt. Better target volume definitely going to be there. It's whether or not this offense can actually be what they want to be, and is that type of offense going to produce for a guy who may not be able to keep up with it.
I'm just encouraged by, well, one is ADP to take a late round flyer, but two, just by the fact that there was nothing with Larry Fitzgerald himself to make me think that it was a regression from an athletic talent standpoint from what he was able to do because the quarterback play decreased. So that's kind of why I'm a little bit more willing to take a flyer on Fitzgerald, why I'm higher on Fitzgerald than most is just because you look at what he's done in his career and what he was doing up until last year, and there wasn't really any signs of a drop-off. He was still consistently putting up 1,000-yard seasons. Yes, it wasn't the Larry Fitzgerald of old, but it was old Larry Fitzgerald. You knew what you were getting, which is kind of a high-end 2, back-end 1. And then Josh Rosen happened. So I think the better quarterback play is gonna behoove him a little bit up into wide receiver 2 status.
Yeah, he's wide receiver 37 at the 808. That is completely fine. I mean, if you want to take that, he's sandwiched between the 2 Packer receivers right now.
Yeah, I would rather take Fitzgerald, probably a proven commodity, than either of the Packers receivers.
Oh no, I'm
definitely more than Geronimo Allison. Obviously, I'm on MVS's train more.
Yeah, I believe I'm on the same mindset.
Yep. All right, Corey Davis, we kind of talked about his upside a bit. He's at 33. Marvin Jones, we talked about a bit earlier when we talked about Galladay. He's at 34. 35, Sammy Watkins. The question that comes up to me is why keep risking the injuries on drafting Sammy Watkins?
Because if he's healthy, I guess healthy, he's the number 2 there. There's no one else taking that spot from him. He produced when he was healthy there last year. I bet he never really was. I don't know what the contract situation's like. Well, they did pay him wide receiver 1 money. Speaking of ADP, he's going right around the same area as Larry Fitzgerald at the 805, wide receiver 35. So you're taking Watkins as likely your wide receiver 4 or 5, which to me is worth the upside if he can play a full 16.
It's a good dart throw, especially if something happens to Tyreek Hill, be it injury or otherwise.
Yeah.
His 16-game pace last year was not that inspiring. 830 yards, 6 touchdowns, 88 receptions. It is a team that doesn't have a great defense. They lost pieces to that defense. We know that there's a good quarterback. And the running game right now with Damian Williams' hamstring has a big old question mark on it. So there is a case to be made, like Larry Fitzgerald, for Sammy Watkins if he can be healthy.
Yeah.
But, that's a big if for him. D.D. Westbrook, don't want to gloss over his upside too much. We've seen flashes from him the first 2 years. You bring in Nick Foles, who is a more accurate quarterback than Blake Bortles. Notice I'm not ever going to say better, but more accurate.
Yes.
D.D. Westbrook is a guy that's also poised to break out or have a good season. He hasn't shown quite the same type of promise as a Pettis or a DJ Moore or a Chris Godwin, but he is still a guy that we've been consistently high on that we're just waiting to take that next step. He just doesn't flash quite as much as some of the other guys.
He's one of my favorite sleepers. If you're going to try to find a Pettis, a Kurt type of upside in the later rounds, you might as well take a chance on Westbrook. The sound out of camp is that they're moving him to the slot, which should yield more volume for him. He's still a very good deep threat. Nick Foles has no problem taking chances downfield.
Or with the slot, we saw Aguilar be very, very productive with Nick Foles.
Yeah, there's. I believe he's the best receiver on that team. I've always believed that. The fact is, he led the team in targets. He had over 100 targets last year with Blake Bortles in his very inconsistent play last year, and whoever the fuck their backup was. So, I think he can take the next step. I don't know if he's ever going to breach high end or mid 2. I think there's a chance so that he could.
He's a solid 3.
I think he's a very solid 3 and someone that you can draft at the end of your draft. I think he's going more around the 10th round at this point. His ADP right now is 909, wide receiver 43, which is where true dart throws start to happen. So,
all right, rapid fire here for a minute.
Yep.
Sterling Shepard, can he just yes or no on these? Sterling Shepard, can he lead his team in wide receiver targets?
No.
Golden Tate?
Yep.
Even with the 4-game suspension, you think Tate's going to beat out Shepard?
I think Tate's a better points per game. I know that's not the question, but yeah.
Okay. I'm the opposite of that. I think with the 4-game suspension, he does lead the team in wide receiver targets. I think Shepard and Tate are very, very similar type of players, and you can't overstate rapport. Where Golden Tate is going to be trying to fit it into a new offense, Sterling Shepard already has it.
That's fair.
Mike Williams, worth the hype in the draft capital?
No.
I agree entirely. Mike Williams is not worth the type of the draft capital. This is not a high-volume passing team.
His ADP right now is 508.
Yep. Too high.
No. Way too high.
Will Fuller, I don't really have anything to say there. He's going to have some good games, then get hurt.
Yes, that's true.
Curtis Samuel, is he on the rise, giving his improved route running and are you buying the hype on him coming out of camp?
Yes,
I am
very
too.
much so.
I am very, very much also doing that. That'll show up in our rankings adjustment episode, only on YouTube, coming out a week from probably Tuesday. We'll see. Golden Tate, we talked about him. 4-game suspension hurts his draft capital a bit. Once he comes back, he is still ownable. Give it a round. Where are you willing to draft Golden Tate?
Jesus. Dart throw, I guess 10 through 12 range.
Yeah.
I don't mind taking him as my wide receiver 5 or 6.
I don't either, and I don't want him as more than that because if Shepard takes hold and Ingram takes hold and the offense is productive with Barkley, he's going to have a struggle getting involved in the first place.
Low touchdowns, potential high volume.
Yep. Cortland Sutton, again, he's a guy that came in the league really, really raw. He's projected to have some opportunity. Year 2 wide receiver, though, I'm not expecting him to break out yet. He's a guy that I would predict we're talking about as a breakout next year, so trade for him in Dynasty.
Yep, that's fair.
Anthony Miller, he's healthy. Does he take the next step now that he's not dislocating his shoulder every other week?
If the Bears' offense improves, then there's a very good chance he's the next Chris Godwin.
Yep, I agree with that too. Year 1 wide receiver, he had 7 touchdowns, but was playing hurt. You can see him take a next step in year 2. Kind of really like Godwin in year 1, who was big on touchdowns, but not big in volume. Miller takes a step in year 2, talking about him big time next year. He's going to have some startable games this season. Probably be talking about him on a waiver episode, but he's just worth a flyer at the moment. All right. The give me somebody that's still relevant tier. All right. Gonna start with Tyrell. Yeah, it's like a 2000s emo tour. Give me somebody that's still relevant.
Oh God.
All right, starting out with Tyrell Williams. I'm gonna go ahead and take this one. I am 15 spots higher than Tyrell Williams than you. He's 13th in yards per reception, 13th in yards per target, 41st in target quality rating at 7.9. Not great. 68.8 contested catch rate, just 2 drops. 60th in quarterback rating when targeted, 34th in target accuracy. That's Phillip Rivers not being able to throw a deep ball, basically. Derek Carr, on the other hand, 4th in deep ball completion, 12th in money throws. Basically, my reason for ranking Tyrell Williams as high is just that I like this combination, even if it's only at 80 targets a game. You've got some Deshaun Jackson type of games that you're probably going to get out of Tyrell Williams with that, and with Derek Carr's ability to huck a deep ball.
Yeah, he's one of my favorite dart throw best ball players.
Yeah, especially in best ball. Just because, again, he's a guy that runs deep. We know Hunter Renfrow is going to work over the middle. Antonio Brown's going to be the possession guy if he's healthy. And Derek Carr's, what his underlying metrics show that it's a good match. That's basically where I'm coming from.
He was a 100-target guy when he was given the chance. If the Raiders are going to be projected as poorly as they are, especially just given the division that they're in,
they're going to be passing.
Williams, there's a potential chance that he can be a higher boom bust receiver.
Yep. Marquez Valdes-Scantling, are we buying the wide receiver 2 hype? And if so, will he show up on the first YouTube only adjustment episode?
He'll move up. It's just not sure how much. I want to keep hearing more reports out of camp that suggest this. He went through stretches last year that he showed that he was great. But then he fell off the edge of the earth. So I like his role, and I think if the Packers offense improves,
hey, you're one wide receiver though. The only thing you're looking for is flashes there.
Exactly.
You're 2 wide receiver. You're looking for a bit more consistency with those flashes, and year 3, you put it all together.
Yep.
That's the ideal curve for a wide receiver. So that's what I'm looking for at MVS this year. He's the one that I think might be the next Chris Godwin. So
he could be if they don't take anybody next year.
Yep.
If he's the number 2 there, yeah, I can see that.
Kenny Stills, does he lead the Dolphins in receiving?
If Ryan Fitzpatrick can play more than 8 games, yes.
I agree. Geronimo Allison, Dan.
Geronimo.
Is this the truthers get rewarded?
Yeah, stay healthy. He gets the Randall Cobb type of role. Obviously, he's not Randall Cobb, but the volume that Cobb got in the slot. If MVS takes the next step and Devontae Adams, there's potential volume for him to be a dart throw Adam Humphries type of receiver.
Yeah, I'm just gonna say no.
I know.
N'Keal Harry, he's running with the 2s. Does this ranking slide if there isn't a good news soon?
He's gonna slide, I think, pretty heavily because I think Gordon comes back, and I think he starts off the year slow. You're looking at a year 2 for Harry.
He'll be in the first YouTube episode going backwards.
Yeah, he'll be. It's good that Brady resigned for a couple more years. For dynasty value, I think redraft. I think you may have to look elsewhere with him.
And like we talked about earlier, N'Keal Harry is a guy that we knew was going to have to come in and get some conditioning, get some seasoning, and get some stuff under him. It's a long game with N'Keal Harry.
I mean, especially if he flashes second half of the season, he's fine.
Yep. John Brown in Buffalo. A lot of good reports coming out of camp on him. Thoughts
like
on
he's
that
the one right now.
Sounds like he is the one.
I've always I don't want to say high on Brown. I like his upside with the big arm, big dick, big arm, Josh Allen.
I also like his upside with big dick Josh Allen. Nelson Aguilar at 49. That's more of just a consistency. Hope he doesn't get cut play. Watch him preseason for him and JJ Arcega-Whiteside to battle it out for that. I guess technically it would be the 2 spot.
Which makes no sense because they play different roles.
Well, they don't, but they do.
I
mean, Aguilar can do both, but
I like Aguilar in the slot a lot more than either way.
I like Aguilar in the slot a lot more also. You just kind of got to see more who's going to get target volume, basically.
Yeah.
Is going to be the thing there. DK Metcalf, he's got an oblique injury, comes in at 50. He's going to be the Huckett run a 9-round roll. Run a 9 route, catch it, roll in Seattle that they have every year.
God, can he be their Jimmy Graham? Like, if something happens to Chris Carson, can he just be someone that gets 70 targets but 10 touchdowns? Like,
yes,
it seemes so.
He could be Calvin Ridley, 88 targets and 10 touchdowns.
Except it's going to be done in a different way. Where it's going to not. I mean, Metcalf is the ultimate dart throw. I think
he's a good best ball play.
He's a great best ball play. Just see what happens with them if you draft them in redraft.
Yep. Zay Jones, does he lead the Bills in targets again?
Yes.
I agree with that too. Working over the middle, a little bit the underneath guy there.
Yeah.
All right. We've reached the part of the episode where it's everybody else. So stop me if there's anybody you want to talk about. Or don't stop me. I don't care. Keelan Cole.
Don't stop me. No, you can keep going.
Tre'Quan Smith.
Yeah. Number 2 receiver, I think he'll surpass Ted Ginn. Enough volume to be a high end 3. We'll see, but good best ball play.
Yep. He was 53. Deshaun Jackson, 54.
No.
Deshaun Jackson's a 2, by the way, outside. That's what you got to watch with Arcega-Whiteside.
That's the Arcega guy. I think Arcega is more the backup to Alshon after Alshon is done in Philly. But Deshaun Jackson, again, could have some. He's going to have a wide receiver 1 week. He will. Just at least one.
Yep. Marquise Lee already came out. He's not expected to have a big role, even if healthy. Don't know how much I buy that. But new regime, new quarterback, same coaching staff. So, tepid interest there.
He may get cut, too.
Michael Gallup's a guy we're just looking for flashes out of.
I love him as a deep round upside play.
Mark
doesn't play.
Marquise Brown.
No.
Yeah. Jamison Crowder.
Maybe.
Interested in him if he can stay healthy. He's already hurt, so
yeah.
I mean, he's still practicing, but already news is out of him being banged up. I'm interested in him as the 2 there, though, if he can stay healthy. Adam Humphries.
If he wasn't on Tennessee.
The only argument I have for Adam Humphries being decent on Tennessee is Rashard Matthews.
Except that was without Corey Davis.
It was without Corey Davis, but it was with Marcus Mariota. So
he could be something. Taywan Taylor. I don't know. I don't want anybody on Tennessee though.
Yeah. Willie Steen.
Fuck no.
61. Antonio Callaway.
No.
Devontae Parker. 62.
He's dead.
Mohamed Sanu. 63.
Nope.
Robert Foster. 64.
John Brown gets hurt. He's a name to pick up.
Yep. Marquise Goodwin. 65.
I think his days in San Fran could be done.
Paris Campbell. 66.
I want to hear more reports on Devin Funch's injury, which doesn't sound serious, but I love Paris Campbell. A lot of high praise for him.
A lot of high praise for him and Deion Kane. Not a lot coming out about Devin Funchess. He'll probably rise up from that 66 ranking.
Yeah.
Josh Doxson, 67.
I might just not rank Josh Doxson anymore.
Randall Cobb, 68.
Again, another upside play, just like Michael Gallup.
Trey Quinn, 69. Probably going to be the best wide receiver on that team.
He's my peer man crush, but on a very bad.
He's got to stay healthy. If he can stay healthy, though.
Yes.
We'll see how that goes. Deshaun Hamilton, 70. Another guy that needs to stay healthy that could have some value.
Just got to stay healthy.
71, Deebo Samuel.
Love him, but probably not this year.
72, Ted Ginn.
No.
73, Ryan Switzer.
Maybe, but no.
Yeah, I've got some things to say about Ryan Switzer. He
do
started to see target volume from Eli Rogers in the slot last year, and really whoever gets target volume behind Juju is kind of a wide open game right now. I mean, we all think it's going to be Dante Moncrief, but then they drafted James Washington. Ryan Switzer could be a dark horse in that race. Not with touchdown upside, but
James Washington may be the 4 in this team. It sounds like Deontay Johnson's going to outplay him.
Deontay Johnson can fall off a cliff, and I don't care.
Yeah, it's Moncrief, Switzer, and Juju is my hopeful 3 for them.
So Switzer, if he gets any form of target volume, could be relevant. He's worth a dart throw.
He's a smaller Heath Miller.
Yep. Albert Wilson.
I want him to be a thing, but he needs to stay healthy.
I don't. His Jakeem Grant would be the one that I'm looking at.
Well, I don't want to debate Dolphins receivers.
We're not going to debate Dolphins receivers. Jake Kumaro.
He's everyone's hopeful number 2.
I really want Jake Kumaro to just tear up the preseason and send Geronimo Allison backing. That's what I want.
I want our new Jeff Janis to take off.
Same. AJ Brown, 76, dealing with a hamstring injury.
Yeah, he's not a year 1 guy, unfortunately.
Nope. Paul Richardson, 77. Don't want to debate where Redskins wide receivers.
Fuck no.
Justin Watson, 78.
Your number 3. Let's go.
In Tampa.
Watch
for the flashes. Demarcus Robinson, 79.
Not with Tyreek back.
Danny Amendola, 80.
Stay healthy.
Stay healthy. It's a Golden Tate roll.
Yeah.
Hunter Renfrow.
He'll move up.
He will move up from here, based on what's going on in Oakland. All right, that's all I got. Cool. We spent 45 minutes on news and an hour on the actual meat and potatoes and stuff.
We didn't get 2 hours though, so we're good.
I don't want to get 2 hours. Thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you for putting up with the long episode the last couple of weeks. They'll go back to a more normal length when we get to tight ends next week.
Yes, they will.
So I know hour and a half episodes are long, hour and 40-minute episodes are even longer. We'll be back to about an hour with the tight end conversation next week. And then we'll move on to some more fun stuff than just rankings. Be sure, like I said, subscribe, hit the notification icon on YouTube because that's where we're going to be giving you our rankings updates and our preseason recaps. So please, please, please show up there. Next episode, we're going to be previewing tight ends as well as your normal gamut of news. So be sure to check that out. Maybe a little bit of preseason talk there, but likely not until Tuesday. A reminder, send us a screenshot of you subscribed on YouTube, buying merch, buying a Midwest FFX ticket using promo code BEER to get an entry into the Listener League. And, MidwestFFXpo.com, promo code BEER. Come hang out with us. We'll be in Canton, Ohio, the 17th and the 18th. I am at Hot BFF. He is at 30 BFF. I am saying bye now. Dan is...
See you next time
on...
Beerfield Fantasy Football. I got a piece so bad.
Same time, same place.
Same time, same place.
We're going to hit the outro and let Dan be.
Bye.